Hey, it's Ryan from upfitsupply.com, and in this video we're going to review and compare work van shelving units from the major brands Adrian Steel, American Van, Holman, Knapheide, Masterack, Ranger Design, Vantech, and WeatherGuard. Which one is right for you? Let's find out. To create this video, I ordered a shelf from all the major players when it comes to cargo van shelving. These are the top dogs, in my opinion, when it comes to not just van shelving, but van equipment in general. And so that includes products like ladder racks, partitions, and other accessories. But in this video, we are going to review the tried and true adjustable van shelf and talk about the differences from brand to brand. I've divided this video up into chapters, so if you're only interested in one or two of the brands here, you can skip ahead to the portion of the video where we talk about the brand, or if you're the kind of person that likes spoilers, you can just skip ahead to the end where we sum it all up. Before we get into it, let's talk about the categories from which we'll be reviewing these shelving units and our unique perspective from which we'll be reviewing these shelves from. First, there are 5 categories which we'll evaluate each product in. And those categories are packaging, construction, assembly, installation, and pricing. Now, second, the perspective we're taking when reviewing these products is from that of our customers at upfitsupply.com. So that means an individual consumer or an end user who is purchasing this shelf, installing it themselves, and using it for themselves or within their small business. Now, I say that because this is just one perspective, and the criteria may be different from another perspective. You know, there are several other perspectives, such as a fleet buyer who is purchasing this shelf for 800 vans in their nationwide fleet. There's also the perspective of an individual buyer who is ordering the upfit through their dealership, and the van is delivered to them fully upfit with the shelving already installed. And so in these other perspectives, things like packaging, assembling, and installation may not be as important. Just a couple of disclaimers before we get into it. First, this is 100% our opinion based on our actual experiences. Second, at upfitsupply.com, we do sell products from Holman, Masterack, Vantech, and WeatherGuard, and not the others. And I feel this is important to tell you because I'm not trying to hide anything. I'm just giving you my honest opinion. So let's review these brands in alphabetical order. If you talk to almost any commercial salesperson at a dealership, the first van equipment name that will come to mind is probably Adrian Steel. They are a massive name in the industry, known not just for their products, but also as a fleet upfitter as well. They have install facilities in Maryland and Missouri. The company began in 1953. They're based out of Adrian, Michigan, hence the name Adrian Steel. And they manufacture in most of the major cargo van categories like partitions, shelving, cabinets, ladder racks, and even truck equipment. Now, we reviewed the AD44FP, which is a 44-inch wide by 46-inch high unit with 14-inch deep shelves. This particular shelf sizing that we're using through this video has a wide variety of applications as it can fit in most full-size cargo vans. Now, this shelf is part of Adrian Steel's AD series, which is their entry line of shelving. They also have an HD series line, which we also purchased and reviewed, but we are excluding from this comparison video because it is another class of shelving. What was interesting about the packaging for this shelving is we had this shipped to us, and the company that shipped it added like 2 or 3 extra layers of cardboard around the product's outer carton from Adrian Steel. Now, that typically is an indication that the carton alone from the manufacturer doesn't ship well, in essence a high damage rate, and so extra shipping material is added. Now, once we got the additional packaging removed, we see the package from Adrian Steel. The outer carton did have some strapping, which is typical for these products, but there was no tape securing and sealing the top and bottom of the box. Now, this could end up being a common culprit for missing hardware in the box because an edge of the packaging will snag somewhere in the shipping process and a bag of hardware will fall out. In terms of dunnage or material inside the box to prevent excessive shifting, there were some cardboard separators and light foam in the box to prevent scratching, but the product was not a tight fit in the box. This again is another culprit for shipping damage because if heavy pieces of steel are allowed to shift within the box, it can easily tear through the outer carton when the package is thrown by a package handler. Now, a negative for me with van equipment is seeing hardware bags loose in the box. This was the case for Adrian Steel and most of the other brands in this video. This paired with a loose fit of the product and lack of tape sealing the edges means hardware can easily go missing during the shipping process. The shelf, like pretty much all the shelving we are reviewing in this video, is made of steel. The color is the standard gray with what I would consider a gloss finish. Now we took some measurements of the shelf and found the end panels to be 16 gauge or about 1.5 millimeters thick, and the shelves to be 20 gauge or about 1 millimeter thick. This is fairly average compared to the other shelving units we reviewed. The shelf was a little on the thinner side, but the end panels were pretty much average. Now in terms of capacity, Adrian Steel advertises a 100-pound capacity when the shelf lips are pointing up, or 200 pounds when the lips are pointing down. Now on a 3-shelf unit, this brings total capacity between 300 and 600 pounds, depending on the configuration. Now, the weight capacity is actually pretty good, and I think we'll be able to handle anything the common tradesperson could throw at it. The shelves include many pre-drilled holes in them for easy attachment of your shelving accessories like cabinets, doors, dividers, and more. In our flex tests, we found that the shelf was severely unstable. It was not sturdy at all. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about this when we get to assembly and installation, but this shelving unit seems like it is designed to get maximum stability once it is installed. Now I've heard some claims from some of these manufacturers that the more flex the uninstalled shelf has, the more load you are inflicting on the van and the attachment points and so on. But again, we'll talk about this more later. Adrian Steel has a unique way these AD shelving units are designed to be installed. This category is very conflicting for me with this shelf. I feel like I should be giving such high praise, and here's why. Adrian Steel provides you a 15-page assembly guide in the box, which is a big plus for me and our customers. The assembly, in theory, should also be super simple. There are just 2 screws you need to use to attach the front of the shelf to the end panels, and the back of the shelf just has studs that slide into place in the back of the end panels. And the shelves can be installed in increments of 1 inch, which gives you plenty of adjustment for pretty much any scenario. The included back panels attach using plastic push and clips, which is also a breeze. So all great stuff so far. The problem is I had such a hard time assembling this shelf. It kept wobbling and shifting on me. It really was a challenge. And it turns out Adrian Steel actually makes a fixture specially designed for assembling these shelves outside of the van. So here's the thing about Adrian Steel. Like I mentioned in the introduction of Adrian Steel, they are going to be the first name any commercial vehicle salesperson will mention when you ask them about work van shelving, because they own that space. They really cater to the large fleets in the van plus upfit market, where you buy the van from the dealership with the upfit package. Now they don't seem to really put a whole lot of focus on the DIY, the small fleet, or the end user install market, which is really the perspective we're taking with this review video. And because of this, their shelving is probably an absolute breeze to assemble and install for those large fleet installers or upfitters, because they have the special fixtures, they probably have the training, and so on. Now that being said, this shelf is really not meant for you to assemble and install it. It's really meant for a professional upfitter to assemble and install it. Doesn't mean it can't be done. I did it, but it certainly comes with its challenges. We were not able to truly review the installation process for this shelf, as a separate installation kit is required for a secure installation. There are not any installation brackets or hardware included with the shelf. However, we did mock up an installation using some spare brackets and hardware we had. And while you could potentially install it this way, it is not recommended. Now the installation kit for these shelves are actually pretty cool. They are vehicle-specific rails or extruded aluminum tracks that you mount to the wall and floor of the van, and then you just attach the shelf to those rails. Now the benefit of the rails is it allows you to fine-tune or adjust the placement of the shelving without having to re-drill holes in the van for your brackets. Now, because the install tracks vary from vehicle to vehicle, pricing will vary, but for our 155-inch wheelbase Savannah, it'll set you back about $400. But it does include rails for the walls and floors for both the driver's side and passenger side. One thing I want to cover in the pricing section is the manufacturer warranty, and the Adrian Steel AD44FP comes with a 3-year or 36,000 mile warranty. Now, I was only able to find marketing speak related to this and not the fine print, but it appears that the warranty is only valid if the product was installed by an authorized Adrian Steel distributor. That means if you're looking at buying and installing this yourself or having someone else install it who is not authorized, it's likely not covered. Now, street price on this was $450.15 plus shipping, which puts it at the number 4 cheapest shelving option and right around the average of $490. Although a little cheaper than the average, it also does not include components and hardware to install the shelf. So although it's $40 cheaper, by the time you add in the additional cost with installation, it's easily at or above the average price. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh On the total opposite side of the spectrum from Adrian Steel, from a customer market perspective, we have American Van. Now, American Van started in 1978 as a manufacturer and supplier to local companies who needed shelving and ladder racks for their vans. They then expanded their business by becoming a mail order van equipment company. They would mail out these catalogs, as they still do today, and collect these orders. And of course, with the advent of the internet, they eventually turned into an online store or catalog e-commerce site where you could buy their products. The unique thing about American Van is they are the manufacturer and they are the retailer. So they are a manufacturer direct, for the most part, business, whereas every other brand we are reviewing in this video is a manufacturer who relies on other businesses like distributors, upfitters, and retailers to sell their products. The product we're reviewing from American Van is the CN3944, which is a 39-inch wide by 44-inch high unit with 16-inch deep shelves. As I mentioned before, American Van is a pioneer in shipping products from their factory directly to end users, and their experience really shows when it comes to their packaging. The product itself is very tight within the box. Bubble wrap and paper are used throughout to help prevent any damage, and the product ships very well via parcel carrier like UPS or FedEx because of this. Now, I did find some empty space in our box on the top, which would allow for some shifting, but it didn't seem to be an issue for me with our shipment. When we look at the construction of the shelf, it's a steel shelf painted gray. It has what I would consider a gloss finish. We measured 18 gauge steel for the end panels, or 1.21 millimeters, and 18 gauge shelves, which is a little on the lighter side, mainly for the end panels where we're seeing typically that 16 gauge steel being used. Now, we couldn't find any advertised weight capacity for the shelves. There are some pre-drilled holes in the shelf for adding your various accessories like doors and drawers. Now, in our flex test, it performed very well, just a little bit of flex, but overall very sturdy. This shelf also includes a floor brace that sits between the end panels and the floor, which I think adds some stability. When it comes to assembly, the American Van shelf includes an assembly guide in the box, making it easy to figure out how to put this shelf together. Taking this a step further, American Van also gives you the option to have the shelf fully assembled in their factory before it is shipped to you. Now, there is no charge for this service, but it will set you back another $50 to $100 in added shipping charges, since the fully assembled shelf will have to ship LTL freight. Now, the end panels on the shelf are designed so that the shelving can be mounted in 2-inch increments, which allows for plenty of flexibility. We found the 2-inch increment to be about the average across all the shelves we reviewed. I did find it a little cumbersome to attach the shelves to the end panels, as it required 24 pieces of hardware to attach each shelf You multiply that by 3 shelves and you're looking at 72 pieces of hardware to fully assemble. We installed this shelf in our GMC Savannah cargo van. There are a few things I appreciated about this shelving unit when it came to installation. First, was it included all the brackets and the hardware required for installation. It even included a plus nut setting tool in the box, which seems to be rare these days. There were only 2 shelves in this review that included the plus nut tool. Second was, again, that assembly and installation manual that came in the box with the product. It's just one less thing you have to worry about during the install. Now, the only thing that added some complexity to the installation was having to drill holes in the end panels to attach the brackets to the shelf. However, you're likely already drilling holes in the van for setting your plus nuts, so not a huge deal. And at the end of the day, even if there were holes in the end panels, there's no guarantee it will line up with your brackets, and drilling a hole may be required regardless. The installation brackets were a little on the smaller side, measuring in at 2.56 millimeters or approximately 13 gauge. American Van products are definitely priced to sell. This shelf was the cheapest option of all the shelving we reviewed in this video. The street price was $341.70 plus shipping. This makes it almost $150 cheaper than the average and a whopping $213 cheaper than the most expensive option. Now, I couldn't find any evidence of a manufacturer's warranty with this product. However, American Van does have a 30-day satisfaction guarantee where you can return the product for your money back if you're not satisfied. When we talk about Holman van equipment, what we're really talking about is legacy Cargomaster. So Cargomaster is a business that was started in 1982 by David Lewis. This was a manufacturer of equipment for work vans and trucks. But in 2018, Cargomaster was acquired by Holman Enterprises, and then eventually in 2022, Cargomaster and really every business unit within the Holman Enterprises portfolio was rebranded under the Holman name. But for all intents and purposes, the equipment is the same, tried and true equipment from Cargomaster, now with a new name and all the resources that come from being part of a larger company with over 6,000 employees. The Holman product we're reviewing is the 48420, which is a 42-inch wide by 46-inch high unit with 14-inch deep shelves. Now, Holman, back when they were still Cargomaster, used to have a lot of packaging issues, but they really stepped up their game in the last couple of years. I know just from my own conversations with them, is they went through a period of time where they studied every single product weighing over 50 pounds and evaluated the packaging situation to improve it. And with this shelving unit coming in over 70 pounds, you can really tell the difference. The Holman packaging has foam sheets for protection. Everything fit tightly within the box. Even being the weight that it is, it can still ship via parcel like FedEx or UPS. They do use shipping straps to keep the package rigid, but my one piece of critical feedback that I'm pointing out on every one of these brands is that there's no tape sealing the ends of the box. Now, Holman boxes their hardware, so their hardware is bagged and then put within a box within the box. So my biggest concern with no tape and just shipping straps is that a corner snags and a bag of hardware falls out the box. But with the hardware boxed within the box, it's pretty much unlikely to happen. Like the other shelving units, Holman's shelf is made of steel. It is painted gray in what I would consider a matte finish. Now, most of the other units are glossy, which adds some potential for glare issues. Usually not a huge deal on the shelving unit, but I do really like that matte finish. Our measurements of the end panels are showing 16 gauge steel or 1.74 millimeters, and the shelves at 18 gauge steel or 1.43 millimeters, which seems to be about the average between all the brands. Now, I couldn't find any advertised weight capacity with Holman shelves. There are some pre-drilled holes in the shelf for adding your accessories like dividers, doors, drawers, and more. In our flex test, the Holman shelf performed average. It did have some flex to it, but overall pretty sturdy. Some added features the Holman shelf has are gussets for the leg supports, as well as welded screw nuts, making assembly really easy. Each shelf also rests on what they call a lance on the end panel, which again makes assembly really simple by keeping your hardware count down without sacrificing structural integrity. The shelving unit also included 2 back panels, which not only help keep things from falling out of the back of the shelf, but also adds some strength. Now, I mentioned assembly a little bit earlier, but the Holman shelf by far was the easiest to assemble. It probably took about half the time or even less to assemble this shelf compared to the others. So let's talk about the positives. First, they include a fully illustrated assembly guide. This is separate from the installation guide. Multiple pages, illustrations, parts list, fully printed, included in the box. This is fantastic. Second, the only hardware you need to attach each shelf is 4 screws with a Phillips head screwdriver, 2 attaching the front of the shelf to the end panel and 2 attaching the rear of the shelf. The nut is already pre-welded into the shelf and end panels, so much easier than those 70+ piece hardware assemblies. Now, I mentioned the lances earlier. These are little tabs that stick out inside the end panel that the shelf will rest on. There's obviously some structural support going on with those, but it also makes it super easy to line up your holes and attach the hardware. Now, the only downside is because of the lances, you can only mount your shelves in 4.5-inch increments. The average for this between all the brands we reviewed was about 2 inches, and some even went down to 1 inch or 3/4 of an inch. So this does add some limitation to the precision of your shelf heights, but for me, the pros of the lances outweigh the cons. Installation is another area where Holman shines. They include all the brackets and hardware necessary to install the shelf in the van, as well as another fully illustrated installation guide in the box. Holman's brackets measured in at 3.74 millimeters, which is likely a 10 gauge steel. The other thing I like about the Holman shelving unit is they provide you with optional mid-mount brackets, so you could potentially have 4 brackets securing the shelf in the van. They are the only shelving brand reviewed that did this. My one quirky remark on installation is they don't include the little plus nut tool with the shelf. Now, American Van and WeatherGuard both do this, and I totally understand the reasoning for not including it. It's like an $8 tool, and you only need one of them to get your entire van upfit. So if you're doing a typical 3 shelving units in a partition in your van, you don't need 4 plus nut tools. And you, as the customer, end up paying for that even if you don't need it. So I get it, but still having that plus nut tool would have been great. So if you're looking at buying this shelf, just add the little $8 plus nut tool to your cart and you'll be fine. The street price on this shelving unit was $554.73, which is about $60 more than the average price. But if you think about everything extra you get with the shelf that the other brands don't give you, like the gusset supports for the legs and the included back panels and the extra set of installation brackets, you can make the argument that it is fairly priced. Now, the warranty that Holman offers seems to be industry standard at 3 years. Holman, like many of these other brands, does require you to purchase the product from an authorized retailer in order to take advantage of the warranty. This is slightly better than some of the other warranties out there that also require you to have it installed by an authorized installer in order to take advantage of the warranty. You probably know the Knapheide name for their truck bodies, truck beds, and service bodies. They've been around for a while, in fact, 175 years, which, by the way, was almost 4 decades before the automobile was invented. So yes, they were essentially making bodies for wagons. But fast forward almost 2 centuries, and Knapheide now also has a van equipment line. In at least 2014, they introduced Sortimo by Knapheide line of van equipment. In at least in 2020, possibly earlier, they rebrand it as just Knapheide van equipment. But as we can see in many cases, there are still Sortimo logos throughout the product. Now from my eye, it appears the shelving is still the globalist 4 line of shelving from Sortimo with some custom paint and logos on it to match the Knapheide branding. Now Sortimo has been around since 1973. They are a German company. You can very much see that in the engineering behind this shelving in a lot of their products. It has the traditional German level of engineering, very sophisticated, very clever, but also what many Americans would consider over-engineered. Now, Sortimo does not sell the Globalist 4 line of shelving in the US like they do in Germany and the UK and their other markets, possibly because of this arrangement with Knapheide. The Knapheide product we are reviewing is the 4460-1, which is the shelving starter package. It's 40-inch wide by 44 inches high with 15-inch deep shelves. Now, this is a little bit different than some of the other shelves we're reviewing. Like I mentioned, this is a shelving starter package that also includes 4 bins and a shelf lip. When I opened the box from Knapheide, I was actually really surprised that there was almost no dunnage and just a box that was way too big for the product. It was only 2/3 of the way filled, which left way too much room for what I would be comfortable with. Now the shelves themselves did have little cardboard protectors around the edges, which gave them a tight fit, but the accessories stacked on top worry me just a little bit. Now with the product as it is, it should definitely not ship via a traditional parcel carrier like UPS or FedEx. It should really only be strapped to a pallet. There were just 2 staples securing the top of the box shut, with the exception of a single piece of tape running perpendicular to the opening that's real purpose was to hold some cardboard corners onto the box. The Knapheide box also had bagged hardware loosely sitting in the box like several of the other brands we reviewed, which means it could go missing easily in the event of minor shipping damage. Now construction is really where the Knapheide shelving unit shines. Like I mentioned, Sortimo, who is probably the manufacturer here, is a German company, and a lot of that German engineering comes through. It's like the BMW of shelving units, if you will. It's like every little detail has been thought through and has a function. Now the end panels are uniquely designed to save weight, but also give you almost limitless potential for mounting of accessories. There's no exposed bolt heads or hardware on the outside, giving you this seamless look. It includes bins with shelf-integrated clips which keep everything in place during transit, but allow for easy removal when you need it. It really is a shelving system and not just a shelf. The color is a very deep dark gray with a slight hint of blue. It's a glossy finish. We did measure the end panels and shelves, and they came in at 1.07 millimeters, which likely makes it 20 gauge steel, which is the thinnest of all the shelves we reviewed. However, you know there's probably some unique engineering or manufacturing process with the way they roll the ends of the shelves and the end panels that probably makes them just as strong while using less material, keeping weight and costs down, you know, something BMW would do. Now each shelf is rated for a respectable 175 pounds, which all in would give you a capacity of 525 pounds. In our flex test, however, it was super wobbly, a lot of flex in the shelving unit once it's assembled. The shelf also requires a back strap to be installed in a certain orientation relative to the forward side of the vehicle, which makes me think that again, everything has likely been thought through from almost every angle. When it comes to the assembly of the Knapheide shelf, the first issue I ran into was there was no assembly guide to be found in the box, nor on their website. I had to do some Googling to figure out how to put the thing together. It was quite harder than its peers we reviewed. It's just a complex shelf. It's got special spring nuts that sit in special grooves within the flange of the end panel. You then attach the shelves to that nut with some bolts. Now the shelves can be mounted in increments of 3/4 of an inch, which is the tightest threshold of all the shelves we reviewed, but it did add a little complexity to assembling to ensure you were installing each shelf square and they weren't cockeyed. Each shelf is installed with 4 spring nuts and 4 bolts, so light on the hardware, which is nice. That German engineering made itself known during the assembly process. It was cool, but it's a little more complicated than the average shelf. There were just a few extra steps that the other shelving units didn't have, like attaching caps to the top of the end panels and sizing and attaching the rear strap and placing the adhesive foam spacers on it. Installation of the shelf was very much like the assembly. It's well done, but there's some added complexity. Now, I like that your installation brackets and hardware are bagged separately, which make it easy to find, but you do need to custom bend your brackets and orient them in a specific direction relative to the forward direction of the vehicle. Again, no installation instruction included or on the website. We had to do some Googling to find those. However, once it's complete, it is a very solid installation. It's just a little more complex than your traditional work van shelf install. The street price on this shelving unit was $681.95, making it the most expensive shelving unit that we reviewed. But again, this really isn't just a shelf, it's a shelving system. It includes bins and the shelf lip. It's easily expandable with additional accessories. Now, the pricing is almost $200 over the average price, yet still includes the industry average 3-year warranty. Now, a BMW is really a great metaphor for this product. It has all the bells and whistles, every little detail masterfully engineered. Maybe you'll get a little bit of the BMW status with owning one of these shelving systems. It seems really great, but there are some complexities that come along with it, especially for the owner-operator looking to purchase and install this themselves. Masterack is a brand that has been around for over 50 years. In fact, they have the first patented roof-mounted clamping ladder rack from way back in 1972. It's a well-established, well-known brand in the industry. And back in 2017, they were purchased by JB Poindexter & Company, which is really a private investment group that owns many other commercial vehicle-related businesses like Morgan Truck Body, Morgan Olson, Redding Truck, and Lear. The Masterack product we reviewed for this video is the 02J640KP, which is a 37-inch wide by 44-inch high unit with 12-inch deep shelves. In reviewing the packaging from Masterack, we found the outer carton to be pretty sturdy with double-walled corrugation. There were some foam sheets in the box wrapped around the components, but not quite enough to keep things from shifting. Unfortunately, the box was only held together by 2 light-duty shipping straps, which combined with those loose items inside seems like damage and missing pieces could be more likely. The hardware was bagged but loosely left in the box like most of the brands are doing. Again, I could see that sneaking out from a little tear or snag in the box. There was also quite a bit of space in the box for things to jostle around. When it comes to construction, the Masterack shelf is a lot like the other shelves we reviewed. Steel, painted gray, seemed like more of a matte finish. The top shelf was black, however, and it did have some cuts in the metal ready for some dividers to be put in. Now, the end panels measured in at 1.65 millimeters for us, which likely makes it 16 gauge steel, and the shelves at 1.38 millimeters or 18 gauge. This is pretty much the average across the brands we reviewed. Now, the shelving unit did include a big panel to be installed behind the shelf to keep things from falling out of the back, but it was made out of some type of paper product like a hardboard or almost like similar to the material some OEMs use for paneling in the vans. Now, the lower shelves did have some pre-drilled holes in them for adding your accessories like doors, drawers, dividers, and so on. In our flex test, we found that the shelf performed pretty much in line with the others. There was some flex to it, but overall pretty sturdy. The Masterack shelf did not include any manuals, so we had to look for one on the website, and unfortunately the manual was pretty generic, so it was difficult to decipher what was relevant and what wasn't. Masterack is again one of those brands that's more oriented towards professional upfitters and fleets than they are towards end users or the DIY person. Probably not quite as extreme as Adrian Steel, but still very much oriented towards those buyers. And because of that, things like assembly and installation instructions are a little harder to come by and understand. The shelves can be mounted in increments of 1 inch, which allows for a lot of flexibility on where to mount. Each shelf is attached using 8 bolts and lock nuts per shelf. The installation of the Masterack shelf was a little challenging. First, again, no installation guide. We found one on their website, but again, pretty generic. Second, the package didn't include any brackets or hardware to install the shelf, so a separate installation kit is required to install this shelf. So all in, we were pretty much left to our own devices to attach the shelf to the van. We used some brackets and hardware we had laying around, then made it work. But this would definitely be a challenge for those of you that don't have a bunch of cargo van equipment and hardware laying around your garage. The street price of the Masterack shelf was $480.95, which puts it pretty much smack dab at our average price of $490. The warranty is also pretty much like everyone else's, coming in at 3 years or 36,000 miles. Ranger Design is a work van equipment manufacturer that has been around since 1988. They are a Canadian company with facilities in the US and have over 300 distributors across North America. They are widely respected within the industry and well known for their innovative and quality products. For this video, we reviewed the RD-N4-RS36-3 shelving unit, which is a 36-inch wide by 44.5-inch high unit with 16-inch deep shelves. Unboxing the Ranger Design shelf, I had some high hopes. It looks like there was an attempt at some type of sub-packaged assembly to keep everything together, but it might have been in a box that was a little too big, so shifting occurred. There were also some foam blocks in the box to help keep things from shifting. Now, we also bought this shelf from one of our competitors, so they may have sent us some returned products, and unfortunately there was a little bit of damage to one of the end panels in the shipment. Now, luckily, once fully assembled, the end panel completely straightened itself out, which I was pleased with. They are right on the verge of being able to ship this product via a parcel carrier like UPS or FedEx. If they could get that wrap around the products just a little tighter and get it in a box that's a little more snug, I think it would do quite well. But until then, LTL freight is probably the way to go if you have the option. However, this does come with added shipping costs. The Ranger Design shelf is made with steel end panels that are stamped with a diamond plate texture, painted black in a gloss finish. You can't forget about the iconic Ranger Design yellow accent stripes that are actually vinyl or a similar material. The shelves themselves are made with extruded aluminum lips, and the bottom of the shelf is made of a wood material. The end panels measured in at 1.58 millimeters or 16 gauge steel, which seems to be in line with what other manufacturers are using. The shelf does not include any pre-drilled holes or anything for attaching accessories like doors and cabinets, so some drilling will be required for mounting those. In the flex test, the Ranger Design shelf is clearly the winner. There's hardly any flex in this shelf at all. Personally, I really love the look of the Ranger Design shelf, and really most of the products are designed with a similar aesthetic. There really isn't anything else out there like this that is this iconic, that stands out this much right away at first glance, with exception of maybe WeatherGuard. Assembling the Ranger Design shelf was fairly easy. There were just 8 screws needed to attach each shelf to the end panel. No other hardware to fuss around with. I did have a little difficulty with getting a few of those screws driven into the aluminum lips, even using an impact, and I did end up breaking the head of one of the screws during assembly. Unfortunately, there's not a full assembly guide included in the box. You are sent the first 2 pages with a QR code, which then makes it easy to view on your phone. Now, I will say the assembly guide is awesome. It's super illustrated and easy to follow. I just wish it came with one printed in the box. Now, the Ranger Design shelf does allow you to mount the shelf in increments of 1 inch, so a ton of flexibility in terms of shelf heights. The design of the end panels also allows you to mount the narrower top shelf at any height. Installation of the Ranger Design shelf is really straightforward thanks to the illustrated installation instructions. I really appreciated how easy they made assembly and installation with their instructions. Again, I just wish it were in the box and not accessed with a QR code. Included in the box are the 11 gauge mounting brackets and all the hardware you need, including large 5/16 inch plus nuts. Now, most of the shelving brands are using 1/4 inch, so just a beefier feeling installation. My one knock, like with almost all the other brands we reviewed, is going to be the no plus nut tool included. So if you're looking at buying one of these, just plan on acquiring a tool if you don't already have one. Now, the street price for this shelf was $546.30, which makes it slightly higher than the average of $490. Now, when it comes to warranty, Ranger Design provides a better than average warranty with a 10-year warranty. Most brands are only doing the 3-year, 36,000 mile warranty, but Ranger takes it up a notch with the 10-year. One of my favorite newer brands is Vantech. Vantech is a New York-based company primarily known for their ladder racks and roof racks for work vans and adventure vans alike. They offer some of the most well-engineered and competitively priced products on the market. Now, Vantech is what I would consider more of a consumer or end user brand, meaning they sell really well directly to customers through their website and network of dealers, directly to the end user. Now, it doesn't seem like they are doing as much fleet business as some of the other brands we reviewed. Now, it's less known that Vantech actually has a van shelving line, but they really offer something unique that I think is worth comparing to in this video. While many of the other brands we're reviewing in this video have aluminum shelving options, aluminum shelves are the only shelving options Vantech offers and are very comparable in features and price to the other products we're reviewing in this video, so I thought it was worth bringing them into the mix. For this comparison video, we reviewed the Vantech part number SA4642-2, which is a 42 inch wide by 46 inch high unit with 13 inch deep shelves. Now, one of the things I absolutely love about Vantech is the way they package their products. They package everything very tightly inside their boxes. Everything is secured together either with plastic wrap or held in place by their shredded cardboard dunnage. Now, the outer packaging is wrapped with 3 shipping straps and multiple staples through the 4 walls of cardboard on the ends. Now, once you get the box open, there's almost like a sub package within the package where the end panels and shelves are wrapped in cardboard with plastic wrap. This ensures there's no loose items in the box. The product is one secure unit within the shipping container. Now, the end panels are also protected with additional plastic wrap to prevent any scratches or dings. This product easily ships via FedEx or UPS, and I bet it arrives to customers undamaged almost 100% of the time. Now, when it comes to packaging, Vantech is clearly best in class, and in my opinion is setting a new standard, not just in commercial vehicles, but I've been working in the automotive aftermarket for over 10 years, and I think this is something the entire industry in general should be striving to achieve. Like I mentioned earlier, the Vantech shelf has aluminum end panels, with the shelves themselves having aluminum lips with a plywood wood bottom. Now, the plywood is covered with a grippy rubber or vinyl material. All of the aluminum is raw or unfinished aluminum color. I did measure the thickness of the aluminum on the end panels, and it came in at 2.04 millimeters. The shelves did not include any pre-drilled holes for mounting doors and drawers and other accessories, but as of this recording, Vantech does not manufacture those accessories, so you would have to find another brand to get those accessories if needed, and some drilling would be required for mounting those. However, the shelf did include dividers in the box along with pre-cut slits in the shelf lips for installing those. Now, in our flex test, the shelf did have some flex to it, but was surprisingly sturdy for only having 2 shelves. And I'm sure if this was a 3-shelf unit, it would have a rigidity much like that of the Ranger design shelf, as the designs are quite similar. Now, I'm not using this point to give Vantech an advantage in any way because it's apples to oranges, but this shelf was super lightweight. You can easily lift it with one hand, whereas traditional steel shelves can be quite difficult to lift by yourself. Assembling the Vantech shelf is a little bit more involved than the similar Ranger design shelf, in that you have to assemble the shelf lips to the shelf bottoms and then attach the lips to the end panels using 8 screws per shelf. Now, I see this being a trade-off with shipping and packaging, as they definitely save space in the package by having the shelves disassembled, but it does add one more step to the assembly process. You can mount the shelves in increments of 3.5 inches, and the end panels can accommodate mounting the narrower top shelf at any level. This is a little less flexible than the average 1 to 2 inch increments that we're seeing with other brand shelves. Now, on a positive side, Vantech does include a fully illustrated assembly guide and parts list in the box, which is a plus for me. Now, installing a Vantech shelf is just like installing any of these other shelves. The bigger factor here that I was a little bummed out about was, although they provide you the 14 gauge steel installation brackets, they don't provide the hardware necessary to attach the brackets themselves to the van. So in other words, there's no plus nuts and no bolts to attach the brackets and shelves to the plus nuts. So if you're looking at getting this shelf, just plan on getting some plus nuts and compatible bolts, as well as a plus nut installation tool when making your purchase. This shelf from Vantech had a street price of $423.20, which is almost $70 below the average price of the shelves we reviewed. Now, most of these other brands are selling their aluminum line shelving at higher prices than their steel lines, so I really like that you can get this pretty comparable aluminum shelf for cheaper than most are selling their steel shelves. Now, Vantech also has a 5-year warranty on their shelving, which is again above that standard warranty of 3 years that we're seeing from other manufacturers. WeatherGuard began in the late 1960s in Illinois when entrepreneur Howard Knack expanded his line of job site storage toolboxes into high-quality truck toolboxes. Now, WeatherGuard is most known for their truck boxes, but beginning in the 1980s, they started getting to the van equipment space as well. Now, in 2012, the WeatherGuard brand was acquired by Werner Company, yes, the latter company, as part of its acquisition of Knack LLC, and the rest is history. For this comparison, we are reviewing part number 9354-3-03, which is a 42-inch wide by 44-inch high unit with 13.5-inch deep shelves. In reviewing the WeatherGuard packaging, I was pretty impressed. Everything had a place, with the custom cardboard dunnage blocks holding the smaller top shelf in place. WeatherGuard is another one of these brands using shipping straps in exchange for tape or staples, when in my opinion both should be used. Now, it definitely can and does get shipped via parcel carriers like UPS and FedEx, but for additional protection it could also go LTL, since the outer carton is just single-walled. I'm sounding a little bit like a broken record, but one of my pet peeves is seeing bagged hardware loosely sitting in the box, especially when paired with the lack of tape or staples keeping the box together. This is because it can easily slide out if a tear is made in the outer carton or a corner gets snagged. The WeatherGuard shelf is of course made of steel, painted white in a glossy finish. WeatherGuard's the only brand that goes with the lighter color of white. They call it their bright white finish, which brightens up the back of dark work vans. Now, their partitions and other van equipment is colored this way, with the exception of their smaller accessories, which are colored in WeatherGuard red. The end panels measured in at about 16 gauge steel or 1.53 millimeters, and the shelves in at 18 gauge or 1.4 millimeters. This is pretty much the average that we're seeing from all the brands. WeatherGuard advertises a weight capacity of 150 pounds per shelf, which is right on the average mark, making a total capacity of 450 pounds. One thing WeatherGuard does similarly to Holman is they have the lances on the top shelf, but only on the top shelf to help with stability. Now the shelves do have pre-drilled holes for mounting your accessories like cabinets, doors, dividers, and more. They also include dividers in the box, and the lips of the shelves have pre-cut slits for attaching those to the shelf. In our flex test, the WeatherGuard did have some flex to it, but it was pretty comparable to most of the shelves we reviewed. The WeatherGuard shelf was pretty easy to assemble. They don't include an assembly guide in the box. It's just a one-page sheet with a QR code to the full instruction sheet, which are pretty generic. The only hardware required to attach each shelf is 4 bolts with serrated heads, as the front and back of the shelf have pre-pressed in nuts, making assembly pretty simple. In terms of height adjustability, you are able to mount the shelves in 2.5-inch increments, which is right around the average of 2 inches. Installation is another area where WeatherGuard shines. I mean, installing a shelf is installing a shelf, but there are a few ways that WeatherGuard goes above board. First, they give you plenty of installation hardware, from multiple sizes of spacers to plus nuts to 11-gauge brackets and more. You'll have everything you need for a secure installation. Second is they include the little plus nut tool in the hardware bag for setting those plus nuts. This is a big plus for those DIY people out there doing the installation of this shelving themselves. Now, there is no installation manual included in the box, but they do give you the one-sheeter with the QR code, so at least you're not having to resort to Google to figure out how to get this installed. One additional step you'll have with a WeatherGuard shelf that you won't with the others is you do need to attach some angle brackets to the end panel feet so that you can attach the feet to the floor. Pricing is one of the areas that is hard to beat with WeatherGuard. The street price on this shelf is $368, which is $122 cheaper than the average price and only $26 more than the American Van shelf. The other awesome thing about WeatherGuard shelving products is they come with a limited lifetime warranty, which is quite a bit longer than the industry standard of just 3 years. Now, the warranty is only valid for the original purchaser, so once the vehicle is sold, so goes the warranty, which, based on average vehicle ownership data, only makes it about an 8-year warranty. But it's nice to know that if you decide to keep your work van for the long haul, you'll be protected from those defects for as long as you keep it. Well, we've walked through each of the brands in this comparison video, showcasing the highs and lows of each of their offerings. So how do they stack up against each other? Well, I'll let you be the judge of that, but in a few words, here is how I would sum up each brand. So the Adrian Steel AD series, a great lower cost shelf for fleet upfitters who need to install lots of shelving very quickly. American Van, a budget-friendly option. Holman, the best all-around shelf with the easiest assembly. Knapheide, a premium sophisticated shelving system with endless customization opportunities. Masterack, a reasonably priced middle-of-the-road shelving system. Ranger Design, an iconic all-purpose shelf with a great warranty. Vantech, the lightweight aluminum alternative with a price lower than most steel options. WeatherGuard, a great value shelf for DIYers that will brighten up your dark work van. Now again, each of these brands reviewed in this video are good brands or great brands, and this video is a pretty narrow review of their shelving line. Some of these brands have heavy duty lines or aluminum lines or folding shelves or a whole lot of other van equipment that each have their own nuances. Some brands excel more in some areas than they do in other areas, but each of these brands reviewed here today are excellent brands. Now, if you're looking for any equipment for your work van or truck, I hope you'll consider upfitsupply.com. We have some of the widest selection and deepest inventory availability you'll find online, all shipped right to your door at unbeatable prices and the industry's finest customer service. That's all I've got for this one. Again, my name is Ryan from upfitsupply.com. Have a good one.